Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to make homemade cinnamon rolls. So everybody is impressed with cinnamon rolls from scratch. My mom has been making this recipe since I was a little kid, and the nice part about it is you can do it by hand, you can do it in a stand mixer, or you can use, if you have a bread machine, you can use that on the dough cycle to make the dough. So the first thing you have to do when you're making cinnamon rolls is it's called blooming the yeast. So if you check this out right here, blooming the yeast is between 110 and 115 degrees. So right now we're right in that sweet spot there. I just heated the milk in the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, stirred it, another 30 seconds, about a minute total. And what you want to do now is just dump in, that was a tablespoon of yeast and a tablespoon of sugar, and we're just going to mix it so it's pretty well incorporated. Just a second here, it doesn't take long. And that's the first step. So you have to let this sit for between 5 and 10 minutes. You'll see it's going to get foamy on top. Guys, if you don't see it start to get foamy on top, what you're going to want to do is throw out your yeast and start over. Your yeast may be dead, that particular batch, or your milk may have been too hot. So if you put your finger in it, it should feel like warm bath water. And what I like to do is just take the yeast and kind of press it against the side just to help get it a little bit incorporated a little faster in here. So that's all we need to do for now. And like I said, if you don't have one of these thermometers, digital thermometers, just go ahead and stick your finger in. It should feel like warm bath water. All right, we'll see you guys back in 5 to 10 minutes. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. And I just want you to see this yeast that's bloomed over here. And so this is how you know your yeast is alive here. See how it's all frothy on the top? You can see if you take the spoon out, it just kind of makes a foamy layer there. So that's exactly what we want. All right, so let me show you how to do the cinnamon rolls. So I started out with 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, here in Pennsylvania, we don't have a lot of availability of bread flour. A lot of recipes, you can't find bread flour. Here's one thing that I have found makes a little bit of a difference and is pretty inexpensive and just something that you can do. I got something called Vital Wheat Gluten on Amazon. So that's what it looks like here. And this is about 3.5 cups. It's not an exact science. I put a tablespoon right in there of the Vital Wheat Gluten. And here's my other secret for cinnamon rolls, for nice, soft, fluffy cinnamon rolls. So this is about 1/2 of a box of vanilla pudding, just regular vanilla pudding mix, about 3 ounces of that, 2.5, 3 ounces. Doesn't have to be exact. So first, essential, you have to debling, take off your ring, and then you just want to mix in the Vital Wheat Gluten if you're using it. If you're not, if you can find bread flour, if you can't, it's fine. You can use all-purpose as well. The thing with Vital Wheat Gluten is it just changes the protein amount in the flour. So typically bread has a little bit of a higher protein content than cakes, which has a lower protein content. It's a whole science, but for today, I'm just going to show you. So we just mixed in the Jello mix, or the pudding mix, and we mixed in the Vital Wheat Gluten. So now we're going to take, and this is another trick that I've learned. So we bloomed our yeast, we know it's alive. The way to not kill your yeast is to add, this is 1 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna add it on one side of the bowl only, okay? And then we're gonna take 1 tablespoon of sugar. Usually you would use a little bit more sugar, but because we have the pudding mix in here, it's a little bit sweeter. And you're gonna put them on opposite sides of the bowl, okay? The reason being is that salt kills yeast. So you wanna add this yeast mixture, and this is just 1 cup of warm milk that we bloomed the yeast in. And I like to use whole milk. And then you wanna sort of just mix it around a little bit. And I'm showing you guys by hand just to show you, like, even if you do it the hard way, it's not really super difficult. So I just want to start kind of mixing in that milk. And this is called an enriched dough. And now we're going to add to that 1 egg. So an enriched dough is basically anything that has eggs in it, that has milk in it. It's just like got a higher fat content. It's just a little bit more rich. And so we're going to start kneading that. So the key with this, of course, is cinnamon rolls are bread, right? So the key to that is developing gluten. And what you want to do is you want to take this mixture that you have here and you want to knead it and get it as smooth as you possibly can before you add in the melted butter. Because what the butter is going to do is it's going to cover all the molecules of flour with the fat in the butter. And once you do that, it's all coated so it can't develop the right gluten structure, right? So you want to develop these nice strands of gluten, and you're not going to be able to do that if you add the butter right away. So you want to knead this for a solid few minutes, and then we'll come back and show you when we're ready to add the butter. All right guys, so I just want to show you here, I just brought together everything that was in the bowl and I dumped it out on the counter. Now, since I didn't do very precise measuring, and that's the nice thing about baking, it is kind of a science, but it's not exactly precise. So I was finding my dough was a little bit dry, so I meant to add about a tablespoon. My helper, AKA my husband, added about 2-3 tablespoons. So it's a little bit wet and sticky right now, but I'm gonna keep working on it and I'm gonna prove to you that it doesn't need to be an exact science. So stay tuned, I'm gonna keep working, keep kneading. Basically from here, I just wanna take and knead it like this. I know it looks like a sticky, disgusting mess right now, but I promise you in a few minutes, this will come together. All right, so we've been kneading our dough for about 5 minutes. And as you can see, even though that was super sticky before, it's now nice and smooth. And what we're looking for, you guys, is when you take and you push in, it should spring back like that, but not too fast. So it's not quite ready yet. As you can see, when you do this, it sort of breaks apart a little bit. So it's not quite fully kneaded, it's about halfway there. And so what we wanna do is we wanna take an indent, and I have about 5 tablespoons of softened butter here. If you're using a bread machine, you can use melted butter. That's the most forgiving. I've used melted butter, I've used softened butter in the bread machine. Either one's gonna come out just fine. But if you're doing it by hand, or in the stand mixer, you're going to want to, after about 3 to 5 minutes in the stand mixer, start adding butter, and you just wanna add it a little bit at a time. So I'm gonna take a little bit of butter, I'm gonna put it in the middle, and I'm gonna knead it just like I've been kneading the bread. So you sort of fold, push, rotate. Fold, push, rotate. And you're covering the butter, so it's getting in there, and you're evenly distributing it. I'm gonna do this and add the rest of the butter. It's gonna take me about another 5 minutes, but I will show you what we look like when we're fully kneaded and all the butter is added in. Hi guys, so I just want to show you, this has been only proving this dough for about 10 minutes here, and this is that enriched dough that we put in here, but you can see it's getting a little condensation on the top. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna let this double in size, but in the meantime, we're gonna make our filling for our cinnamon rolls. So just remember, if you do this by hand, you can skip arm day because you know it was an arm workout, and now is not the time to cheap out on calories. So we have 5 more tablespoons of softened butter. And to that, we're going to add 1/3 cup of white sugar and 1/3 cup of dark brown sugar. I have, if you don't have dark brown sugar, it's okay. You can use whatever you want, light brown sugar, whatever you have. And then I'm gonna add about a teaspoon, or half a teaspoon of salt. So salt is crucial every single step of the way because dessert, like the salt really brings out the sweetness, right? So don't skip out on the salt. Every dessert should have a little bit of salt in it. So let me show you what we're gonna do. I'm just taking this little half rubber spatula here, and I'm just gonna mix up, cream together a little bit by hand, the butter and the sugar and the salt. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but all right, once we've got that about halfway mixed, I'm gonna take 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and I'm just gonna add that in there. You don't wanna be shy on the cinnamon. They're cinnamon rolls. And we're also going to add as much as you want, but I like to go at least a teaspoon or two, of vanilla extract. Mix it around a little bit more. And lastly, we're gonna throw in 1 cup of nuts. So I started out, I didn't have enough walnuts for a cup of nuts, so I just mixed in a little bit of cashews, just chopped them up pretty finely here. We're just gonna throw in a cup of nuts of your choosing, and we're just gonna mix that up. And you have your filling. So once we have this mixed up, we're just gonna set this to the side. We're going to finish letting our dough prove for about another hour, and then we are going to come back and show you how to make these bad boys up. All right, so take a look at our dough here. It's been rising for about an hour and a half, and you can see it about doubled in size, but you see how there's this nice puff. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna take the dough out. And you can see it comes out really nice and easy. This is our enriched dough. And I just took a piece of parchment paper and I rolled out to about 15 by 22 or so. But what we're gonna do is roll this as thin as possible, and I'm gonna stretch this out across the entire sheet. I'm just gonna use my hands and also a rolling pin. So I will let you know when we have that done. Okay, so we have our dough rolled out to 14 by 22, and now we're going to take the filling that we made earlier, and we're just going to spread it on the dough. Now, depending on if you have nuts in here or if you don't have nuts, it can be a little bit difficult with the nuts. If you do have nuts in your mix, your spread, just make sure you don't push too hard, or you could actually go through the dough, but just kind of spread it on. I use a rubber spatula, just a kind of a small one, so you get kind of a nice even coat. You want to leave a little bit of space at the edge, but not too much, maybe just a quarter of an inch, because we really want to get all the way to the edge. This is going to make 12 cinnamon rolls, so make sure the filling gets all the way to the edge. All right, I'll show you what it looks like when it's filled. Okay, so we spread all of our filling out here, as you can see, in an even layer. And what we're gonna do, this is another reason we have the parchment paper, because you can just take the edges and roll it up. But before I show you that, I'm gonna show you what we did here. We just took a 9 by 13 cake pan, and I took and spray and cooking spray, and I put a little bit of parchment paper in the bottom, just crumpled it up. That's easier to shape it in the bottom of the container. And this one has a lid, but if yours doesn't have a lid, it's fine. You can just use saran wrap or plastic wrap. So we're just gonna take the edge here, and we're just gonna roll it up as tight as we can for the cinnamon rolls. We're just gonna do this all the way evenly until we get to the edge. And when you get to the edge, I mean, we're not perfect, right? So sometimes your roll, as you can see, like mine, is a little bit thicker in the middle. So what you can do is just sort of pat the edges down, roll it out a little bit, make sure it's sort of even. All right, perfect. So we have our log here, our giant cinnamon roll, and we're going to cut this into 12 even sections. And we're almost done. We just want to rest it one more time so it can rise, and we're just going to cut this into 12, and we're putting it in this pan here. So the easiest way to do it, cut it in half, about half, right? And then half again, each one, and then cut each of those into 3 sections. So we'll just do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, So we have all of our 12 rolls cut here, and I just want to show you guys, can you see in these rolls here, these little air pockets when you cut, even just now, these little air bubbles in between? That's because we took the time to knead the dough before we put the butter in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let these sit in here. There's a lot of room right now, but these are going to puff up. So I just went ahead and preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I'm gonna put the top on this, but again, if you don't have a top, you can use plastic wrap. And I'm gonna set it on top of the warm oven, which is at 350, just to rise for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we will check them. They should fill in the pan pretty nicely, and they should be ready to bake in just a little bit. Okay, so our cinnamon rolls have doubled in size almost. There's still some space there, but you'll see when they bake up. So we're gonna put these in the 350 oven, and we're gonna put them for between 16 to 20 minutes, but I usually go for 18. They look a little bit underdone, but trust me, pull them out. They cook a little bit more when you take them out. So see you in 18 minutes. All right, so it's been 18 minutes. Let's get our cinnamon rolls out here. Step, like I said, they'll keep cooking in there, but the last step is to put some cream cheese frosting over the top. And there you go. Cinnamon rolls from scratch. So our cinnamon rolls are out of the oven. We finished up putting the glaze on. We put it on very warm still. So these are still nice and hot. But at this point, we just took it out. We baked it for 350 for 18 minutes. And at this point, you can just let it cool for 10 minutes or as long as you can tolerate. All right, so that's homemade cinnamon buns from scratch. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you get the chance to make some. They look really good. If you do get the chance to make some, let us know down in the comments. Or if there's any other recipes you want to see, let us know that too. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Lastly, like and subscribe for more content. Thanks, guys.